Well, okay, it's 8 o'clock. Let's go ahead and get started. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Glad to see you all returning. I want to talk real quick about Activities Assignment 1, which is due on September the 20th. I've pulled this up in Canvas. I've gotten a few questions about it, and then I'm going to turn it over to a speaker that I have this morning, Mr. Damian Cooper, who is a chemistry major, just like all of you. So, Activities Assignment 1, what I've put in here, remember you're going to have to do 2 activities this semester, okay? Now, it outlines what it cannot be. You cannot use sports or Greek life activities, okay, to satisfy the assignment. So if you have any questions about what you're thinking about doing for your activities assignment, please contact me, okay? I'll be happy to answer that question. There is a activities verification form here that you can download. It is a Word document. You need to print that out and take it with you, okay? And get it verified. Go up to the stage or wherever, have somebody who hosted sign this. Damian can do it if you decide to go to the American Chemical Society meeting as one of your activities, so on and so forth. So this tells you everything that you need to know. You're going to write a half-page reflection on that activity. You're going to include that on that form. You'll then scan the form or take a photograph of it and you will upload that. Okay, so you'll upload the form and your reflection. Okay? So I have given you some ideas. So I said the ACS Student Affiliates meetings can count as one of your required activities. Damian's going to talk to you a little bit about that in just a moment. You can also go to the Office of Study Abroad. If you're thinking about studying abroad one summer or one semester, go there and have a conversation with them. Get that started early. They will verify that. That can count as an activity. You can also go to Career Services. So when we start talking about our CVs and our resumes and start developing those, you can go to Career Services for help. I'll count that as one of the activities. Okay? Where can you find additional activities? I've given you some links that can help you find additional activities on campus. Okay? That is not exhaustive. I don't know everything that's going on campus. So if you find something else that is not sports related and is not Greek life related and you're like, hey, I'd like to go to that, reach out to me, let me know what it is, and I'll just verify with you that that'll count. I'd rather you reach out to me beforehand than afterwards and me go, no, that's not going to work. So please feel free to reach out to me. So I want to introduce you all to Damian Cooper. Damian was sitting, well, not in this room. We weren't in this room in 2020. But in 2020, he was in Chemistry 108. He's a chemistry major. Damian is in his senior year. He's also, I think you're the president of the ACS Student Affiliates. Damian has many accolades. He, a couple of years ago, was what we call a SURF student, Summer Undergraduate Research Fellow. And those are sponsored by the American Chemical Society Division of Organic Chemistry. So he spent the summer here doing paid research. He was being paid to be in the lab doing research. And then he was also given travel money to go and present his work to the big wigs at Pfizer. So he got to travel from here to, it was in Connecticut, spent a few days, I guess a couple, 3 days. Saw the campus there, got to talk with scientists and I think administrators at Pfizer and present his research there. And then this past summer, he was an REU student. That stands for Research Experience for Undergraduates. That's a National Science Foundation funded program at Rice University. So he was in Houston, Texas all summer doing research with...
I was in Dr. Curry's group.
Okay, so doing some research there with a group during the summer. So I'm going to give him a couple of minutes to talk with you about the ACS Student Affiliates. I can't speak highly enough of the ACS Student Affiliates. If you want to be involved in something that is germane to your area that you've chosen to study, the ACS Student Affiliates is a great group. And I will upload a QR code that he has given me later where I think that gets access to the group me. So you can get into the group me, know when their meetings are, etc. So Damian, take it away. You want to go up front there?
So hey y'all, as you said, my name's Damian Cooper. I'm the president of the ACS Student Affiliates. And I just want to come and talk to y'all real quick about kind of what we do and kind of what we have planned for this semester. So typically the ACS Student Affiliates is kind of for y'all, for us as chemistry students, chemistry and biochemistry people. And then we also have like some kind of chemistry adjacent majors as well, kind of like biology, biomedical sciences that are also welcome to come in. But kind of what we want to do is kind of show you kind of what chemistry has to offer you, whether it be right now in college, as you heard from me, with all that I've done. I can get out some intel on like how I've made my route, or just kind of afterwards, kind of going towards grad school, med school, kind of whatever you want to do after you get your bachelor's in chemistry. And kind of one of the things that we like to do, kind of starting off our first couple meetings, is kind of talking about what are those type of routes we can take after we graduate, whether it be you could stay with your bachelor's and then go to work, master's, doctorate, med degree, any type of thing like that. And also what we want to try to do that we're doing this semester is kind of give you kind of an insider look at what a chemistry major like is here, like from me being a senior and then somebody else on a biochem route, with different routes, just kind of showing y'all what you might take, what class you want to take, things such as that, so y'all know what y'all have to do in order to succeed and to get to the level of being a senior and just being ready and feeling like y'all can accomplish whatever y'all do want to accomplish. Along with that, in our club, we kind of also like to do outreach in the sense of we like to go to different schools. We're just now getting this kind of ready. We kind of test ran it a little bit last semester where we kind of made slime. It was for a Halloween event, so we made slime for the kids. There was like a little Halloween event on campus. We made slime. The kids loved it. The parents hated us, but that was okay because the kids had a good time. But recently we're in talks with school in Hattiesburg called Longleaf Elementary, going to give little demos to like third and fourth graders, kind of doing stuff like that. So not only do we want to kind of impact ourselves, we also do kind of want to show our surrounding areas kind of what chemistry is, that hey, chemistry isn't just this big thing that I can't do, or it's just this crazy hard kind of idea. We want to kind of show young people like, hey, this is fun, I can do this, and kind of plant those seeds young so they can get to the same places that we are right now, sitting here in the chemistry course, starting out as a chemistry major. So kind of, just kind of with all that being said, it's kind of what we want to do, how we want to run it. And just like I said, those first couple meetings we're going to be talking about just chemistry careers, kind of ideas and kind of our views as chemistry majors, how we've got to where we are. Because I love talking. I don't know if y'all can tell. I love talking. I'll tell y'all everything that y'all need to know about how I got to this, why I'm here, why I've gone to all these different places, just how I've achieved that. But we do meetings twice a month, usually like the second and last week of that month. We haven't yet decided on our first meeting date because I want to get y'all's input as well, because that's why we haven't started. If y'all want to join, I want to make sure that y'all had the opportunity to come to the first meeting, not have to be, oh man, I can't come because it doesn't line up with my schedule. So as Dr. Maxton said, y'all will get a QR code for the group meeting. Once I see that y'all kind of got in, just everybody has kind of calmed down. We'll ask for a date and a time. Usually the days previously were like a Tuesday, Thursday night, and it's between like 6 and 7 o'clock when we start the meetings. Typically the meetings don't last longer than 30 minutes. Sometimes we go a little bit over. But yeah, that's really it. And if y'all have any questions, please feel free to ask me.
Does anybody have any questions for Damien? All right, y'all will get an opportunity again to get that QR code, join that group me, and y'all can group me to your heart's content. Thanks, Damien.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank y'all.
So I want to hand out, don't worry about working on this yet. I'll give you a moment to work on it in just a moment. I want to go ahead and hand it out while we're got a moment. This one? Y'all pass that down, please. Everybody else got one? Good deal. All right, this is a learning strategies inventory. We're going to go over that in just a moment. Have you fill out a few things there. So, For today, I gave you a couple of things to look at before coming to class. Two of them were articles. The first one was biodegradable plastics from flies. Why did I pick that to show you all?
It's just an example of what chemistry can do, or what it can do, and how it can benefit us.
Okay, how can it benefit us?
Finding a biodegradable and renewable way to make plastic.
Yeah, plastics is a real problem, right? I mean, plastics are everywhere in our world today, right? It's certainly changed the way we work, we live. There's a big plus to them. But you've all probably heard about microplastics in the ocean and plastic contamination. That plastics just don't they persist, right? They don't typically degrade, and that's a good quality on one hand, but it creates other issues that we have to address. So yeah, so how can we get biodegradable plastics? And in this case, they were getting chitosan from a fly, right? So how can we harvest plastic that can ultimately be degraded and reused, right? So that was a small little piece of reading that I wanted you all to take a look at. Not that I think you all are going to end up being in the bioplastics industry or anything, but I want you to see the impact that chemistry can have in terms of solving real problems. The other one was 50 years of MRI. Now that was a little longer article. Why did I want you all to see this one? What's so special about MRI? How many people in here have either had an MRI or know somebody that's had an MRI? Yeah. Just about everybody, right? A good number of us. So what's so important about this? Why did this change how we conduct medicine?
Because it gave you a way to look at the masses inside of the body, whereas previously you couldn't really visibly see what was going on inside the body because there was no way to use any technology to highlight specific areas.
Mm-hmm. So you might think, well, it was just a fancier version of an X-ray, but it's really not at all, right? An X-ray came earlier, and we could peer into the body. X-rays have their own problems. They have their benefits as well. But MRI, I mean, you can actually perform surgery on somebody while you're doing an MRI, and you can see inside what's going on. I mean, it's amazing what they can do. It's amazing that it's 50 years old, and it really did get born out of chemistry. I mean, how do you see a molecule? Think about that. How do we see a molecule? How do we know that molecules are the shapes that they are? Well, one of the things is that chemists developed a thing called NMR, which you'll learn about in organic chemistry. It stands for nuclear magnetic resonance, and it gives us the ability to get signatures of molecules and see how they're connected and how they're put together. Okay? And they took that same concept and the scientists said, if we can do this, surely we could do something on the human body, right? Is essentially what they said, and made that work. It's the same thing. So anytime you start interpreting NMR spectra when you're in organic and above, think about it as you're really doing MRI on a molecule. And so MRI, of course, has changed medicine for the better, in my opinion. It's kind of the same technique that we use in chemistry, and so it's certainly been a changing piece of equipment for medicine for the last 50 years. So there's nothing today more impactful, I think, on medicine than MRI. I think it's one of those, people get in an accident, they go and get an MRI. We don't have to guess anymore what's going on inside if you had head trauma or whatever. We can peer in there with MRI. We don't have to get a scalpel out and cut you open anymore, right? We can peer through using magnetic resonance imaging, as it's called. That's what MRI stands for. Okay. Has anybody ever seen an MRI machine? Yeah. You know what that big circle thing is? It's a big, big magnet. And that's where it gets the name magnetic resonance imaging. And so they put you in a big magnet. And basically what they do is they flip your protons. And we've all got water, right? Water has protons, and you flip those protons and you can use that to get an image. Don't worry all about those technical details. I could talk about this for hours. It's a really amazing technique. And so I think it's kind of cool. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted you all to read that. And then I had a video for you all to take a look at, not the science type. What did you all take from that video?
Anyone can be a scientist.
Yeah. So there's this myth out there, right, that scientists are geniuses, yada, 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 right? But not the case, right? What was special about Jay Shree?
She was the only woman in like her class to come to America.
Okay, yeah. What else is special to you? I mean, I have my own thoughts, but
She started out as an engineer.
started out as an engineer, right? Still is an engineer, but more of a chemical engineer, right? Kind of balances between chemistry and engineering.
She didn't get in the first time.
Didn't get in the first time. Yeah. What lesson is there for us?
Be persistent.
Be persistent. Yeah, don't give up. What else is kind of special?
The fact that she focuses on the humanity, it was like really stuck out to me, like the human context of
Yeah.
what she's doing.
Yeah, so, there's this myth, and I probably would put myself more in the myth than not in the myth. I'm a very quantitative person. That's how I function. But not all scientists are in white lab coats, wearing goggles at a bench, not interacting with people, only looking at their test tubes all the time, right? There is a human element to science, right? And she really emphasizes that in her books, that she's written a couple of books on being a science advocate. And so she is 3M's first chief scientific advocate officer or something like that. So, 3M has recognized the need to take one of its employees who's created all these patents and all these products and say, we want you now to be involved in outreach to the communities so that we are improving science literacy across the world, right? And so they do a state of science survey. You can go on the 3M website. And what we've seen over the last decade or so is the general population's understanding of the importance and what science really is has been declining. And that's a scary thing for me. Okay? And so I really enjoy listening to her talk about that, not only in the video, but I also had the privilege of actually seeing her give a talk at an American Chemical Society meeting where she talked about being a science advocate. Each one of you, as you continue your education, as you participate with the ACS student affiliates, if that's what you choose to do, you will become science advocates. You heard Damien talk about, we want to go out to the schools, we want to go out into the community, we want to do demonstrations. Going to the high schools and giving demonstrations is too late. By the time you're in high school, you either like science or you hate science, right? But a first grader hasn't made that decision yet. So what can we do by going into the elementary schools, right? Getting in there earlier. And you all are great advocates for that, right? And so another benefit of joining the ACS student affiliates is that you get to do those types of things. And a nice little secret is you get to count that as service hours for a variety of things. You can use that on your medical school applications if you're going to med school for things that you've done for volunteerism. You can count that kind of work. It's not clinical hours, okay, but it is volunteer hours, and it's also an opportunity for you to become leaders. So when you all apply for graduate school, medical school, that first job, they're going to ask you what leadership abilities have you had, what leadership experiences have you had. You all can talk about the American Chemical Society Student Affiliates chapter here as being part of that effort. Any questions about any of that? Before we jump into this, take your page. On the top here, write your name. On the second page, you have what's called a zip grade form. Print your name and put your ID on it as well, okay? And then I'm going to give you about 6 or 7 minutes. I want you to answer each one of these questions. A, if you answer A, that means true. The statement describes my habits accurately. So if you read the first one, you go, yeah, that describes me. Mark A. B is false. The statement does not describe my habits accurately. Go with your first gut instinct on each of these 11. There are no right or wrong answers. Okay? We will talk about these inventories next week, but I need you all to give me this data, and this will count as your attendance. So please take a few minutes and answer all 11 of those questions. Again, A is true, B is false. Remember, on that first page, you're going to want to indicate A and B on that too, because you're going to want to keep that first page with you. So you need to write them on the first page. You're going to keep that first page, but you're going to turn in the zip grade form to me here in just a couple minutes. So make sure your name is printed on the zip grade form and your ID number, please. another minute. Go ahead and make sure you get it all. If you're done, go ahead and rip the two apart. And go ahead and start passing the zip grade form towards me, please. All right, everybody all right? Should I get your zip grade form? Thank you. Any others? Okay. All right, so for today, what I want to talk about is a series of topics that are near and dear to my heart. I'm interested in student success beyond just chemistry. And so I titled this talk several years ago, Stop Studying and Start Learning. What do I mean by that? Why would a professor tell you to stop studying?
Because when you're studying, you're not necessarily learning, you're just memorizing stuff.
Okay, very good. Do you have a... Yeah?
You should take an active approach to what you're learning about instead of just doing it like to prepare for a test.
Yeah, okay, very good. So active, making sure that we are, getting out of this memorization mode. I'm not trying to throw high school under the bus, but I'm going to throw them under the bus. High school is a bad preparation for your first day of college. There's a big gap between the expectations of your last day of high school and your first day of college. They do the best they can with the resources that they have. I'm not blaming them, but I'm just telling you that what you were doing to be successful in high school is a small sliver of what you need to be successful in college. And one of the things that we are bad about as teachers in general is we assume everybody knows how to learn. This was a revelation to me a few years ago when I started studying this kind of stuff, okay? Learning about this kind of stuff. I should stop using the word study, right? Nobody ever taught me how to learn. How did I get where I was if nobody ever taught me how to learn? I'll tell you, it was by accident in large part. It was by luck in some cases. And there are things that I can do to help you become better learners so that your chances of success are more from what you do as opposed to luck and chance. Okay? So I'm not telling you to stop studying. I'm telling you to stop studying the way that you've been doing it. Okay? And largely, most of you have probably been doing it. I got a test next week. I better start studying. Right? Well, if you're learning along the way, you will always be prepared for the next test. Okay? You will not have to do the cram before the exam kind of stuff that you're probably used to. And some of this stuff will come out in the learning inventory stuff that we're going to talk about next week. So I've got a baseline for where you all are now. We'll talk about what these different learning strategies mean and how they can help you. And we'll talk about the research behind the more of these strategies you use, the better off you are in terms of your overall grade. Okay? So I don't want you leaving going, oh, I'm in college now, I don't have to ever study again. I want you to get out of studying mode, though, and get into learning mode, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Okay? So, yeah, stop studying as you practice it now. Get that out of your mind. Okay? That's important. So, we've talked a little bit about this. But what words come to mind when you think of study, and what words come to mind when you think of learning? So let's focus on study. What kind of words come to your mind, or activities or things like that What pops in your mind when you hear the word study?
Reviewing.
Review, okay. What else?
Reading.
Reading, test,
Memorize.
memorize. Any others? Those are all good. What about learning?
Growth.
Growth,
Retaining information.
retaining,
Application.
application, being able to go to that next step, right? Very good. Anything else?
Active listening.
Active listening. What do you mean by that? Who said that? No, I mean it's true. I just want to know what you think. What do you mean by active listening?
You're attentive to what is being taught to you. You're focused. You are taking the knowledge that is being received.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Good. Yep, absolutely. So here's some things that I came up with. So for study and learning, okay? So many of them you all said, right? Studying, we think about, I got to read, right? I got to review, maybe research, maybe doing exercises, right? You might be equating that. Many of you think about homework as being part of your studying, right? Many of you, and I was certainly in this boat when I was in college. I'm not going to say otherwise. Cramming and memorizing before the exam. And I certainly did that for my humanities type classes, right? I mean, I just thought, I'm a scientist. I got to take these classes. I actually got a lot out of those classes. I'm not trying to belittle them. I'm just telling you where I was when I was 18 years old. It's like, those classes don't particularly interest me. I'm going to cram and memorize and just regurgitate on the exam, right? Today's world is different. No employer needs you to regurgitate facts and information. Nobody. We've got Google. We've got vast libraries, we've got vast databases, we've got AI that can do all that for us. We need you to apply, to problem solve, to extrapolate, to solve the next problem, right? It's more on the learning side. When we think of learning, we think of wisdom, at least I do. I think of training to some extent, right? If I'm learning how to do something. Again, research comes to mind. Attainment, something being permanent. If I've studied it, I might have reviewed it and I might have it for a while, but if I've learned it, that's stuck with me. I learned that. That's up here, right? Understanding and transferability. Somebody said something, I think it was you, said something about transferability. Didn't use that word, but how do I take what I've learned in this class and now extrapolate that or transfer that to the next class? It's going to be very important in the chemistry major, in all the science majors. What you learn in one class is going to be used in the next class, so on and so forth. Okay, that's what science classes typically are. A lot of prerequisite knowledge that you need before you get into the higher level classes. Okay, so again, studying is not the same as learning. We want you as faculty, me as faculty, you as students. When you graduate, I want you to leave with skills and knowledge that you can apply to whatever you decide to do in your life. The education that you leave with will be what remains in your head after you have forgotten all the facts that we have taught you. And you will forget a lot of the facts that we have taught you. But the connections in your brain that are made about how to use those facts will remain. That shell, if you will, in your head, or that scaffold, is very, very important. That's the learning part. That's what we want you to leave higher education with, okay? And so I want you to keep yourself in learning mode. Get out of study mode, get into learning mode. Be a good learner, okay? So, let me give you an example. Let's say I ask you to teach a class next week. Let's say I come up to you and I say, next week, I want you to come up in front of here and I want you to teach a class on this topic, on a particular topic. You're going to need to prepare the materials for class. You're going to need to put together a presentation. You're going to need to put together a series of activities. Does that scare you? Maybe a little bit, right? So, are you going to study that topic and come and give your lecture, or are you going to learn that topic and come and give that lecture? You're going to learn it. And why are you going to learn it?
So you're not just regurgitating facts.
Okay.
You're able to understand it to convey the information to other people.
Okay, very good.
People
ask you questions. And
Ah.
you'll be able-
Yes, people will ask you questions. When you're up here, right, and I'm looking out at you all, what's my fear?
That we don't understand.
That is certainly something that I'm concerned about, but it's not my fear.
No, we don't ask.
I want to make sure that I'm conveying to you, yes.
Then we'll ask some question that you don't know how to answer.
Yeah, I don't want to get caught being,
When someone asks an applied question, that you have to have, you have to have studied the
Mhm.
field, yeah.
yeah, I want to make sure I'm prepared. I don't want you all asking me a question that I should know the answer to that I go, that's embarrassing, isn't it? It's kind of, you want to, when you're standing up here, you want to be the authority, right? You want people to understand that you know what you're talking about. And guess what? Faking it, people pick up on that real quick. Right? You can't fake your way through life. Some people claim they can, but it just doesn't really work out for most of us. So what are you going to do? You're going to put yourself in learning mode. You're going to learn everything that you possibly can about that topic, and you're going to come prepared to teach it to other people. You're not just going to do a quick review, right? You're not just going to go, oh, what are a few of the bolded words in the text that I can talk about? You're going to want to know more about it. You're going to want to dive in. You're going to want to learn that information, right? So, would you spend more time preparing for the class that you needed to teach, or would you spend more time preparing for your next exam? So if this class had exams, would you spend more time preparing for that exam, or would you prepare more time for coming up here and giving the lecture?
One of the ways that I study is like me and my sister, she'll let me teach her the information because that's how I learn by teaching others.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
So I think for me personally, it would be an equal amount of time.
Okay, we're going to talk about that. I would wager, though, that most students on campus, because of the fear factor of being up here having to teach, would spend more time preparing to teach the class than they would for their upcoming exam. I would wager that. I think I would win that bet. Okay? Now, there are folks who might spend equal amounts of time, some that might spend more. But on average, I would wager I'll win that bet. Okay? And so there's this Latin term, docendo discimus. By teaching, we learn. Exactly what you were just talking about. I went through undergraduate, I went through graduate school, did my dissertation on a very narrow piece of chemistry. I went and did a postdoc. So I was at Vanderbilt for a few years, did postdoctoral studies with a very famous guy. Okay? I did that for 3 years. My 4th year at Vanderbilt, he came to me and he said, we just had an instructor who resigned, and in 2 weeks we need somebody to teach Chemistry 101A and 101B, chemistry for non-majors. And he said, you want to go into academia? He said, this would be a good opportunity for you for a year to get some teaching experience. And by the way, it'll pay more. Well, okay, I'll do that. So I had all that experience. I was already a doctor. I'd already had 3 years of postdoctoral experience. I knew my topic like that. And then I had to go in and teach 18 and 19-year-olds about general chemistry who were not ever going to take another science class. It was for non-majors. And I froze. I did not know my topic down at the root level as well as I thought I had. I had spent so much time focusing on this little narrow sliver of chemistry. I had forgotten about a lot of these other things. I had to spend a lot of time relearning a lot of the basics so I could go into the class every week. And so even though I was teaching one class each semester for 3 classes, but it was one course, I spent all week preparing for that so that I wouldn't be embarrassed, because I would look at a topic and I go, when's the last time I worried about radioactive decay of an atom? Never. So I was studying that, learning about that, going out on the internet, learning more, getting examples to share with the class. And so I really started to learn my broad-based area because I had to start teaching it, okay? And so by teaching, we learn. I get as much out of teaching this class as you all get out of it. I might actually get more than you all get out of it, okay? That's how I keep up to date is by teaching. Now, you don't have to teach a big class for this to be effective. You can just teach a person. You can get in a study group. You can teach each other pieces, and you will start to learn it. If you cannot break it down into simple terms, you really don't understand it, okay? So let's talk a little bit about how we learn, okay? So this is one of my favorite little cartoons on this. I taught Stripe how to whistle. I don't hear him whistling. I said I taught him. I didn't say he learned it. At the end of the day, when I'm done up here, I've done my job. I can walk away. Learning is your responsibility, but my responsibility is to help you learn, right? I can't just teach and walk away. We have to have back and forth. You all need to work with your professors when they are up here doing what I'm doing right now and you have no idea what they're talking about. Stop them. Okay? Stop them. Have them explain it better. Okay? We need that. Because I can leave today and say, I taught my class. But really what I want you to do is leave with what I intended for you to learn. Right? And that can't happen if we don't have a two-way street. Okay? There is this thing called the Kolb learning cycle. Okay? We're not going to spend a lot of time on this. But it's a learning cycle that I think works really well. So, concrete experience, how you feel about things that you come into contact with, your observation, watching things, conceptually thinking about abstract things, thinking about things, and then active experimentation, doing. This is the constant learning cycle. You all need to be involved in this. Coming to class, where does that fit? Okay, yeah, reflective observation, right? Now, you might say, well, in some of my classes, we actually do active learning. Okay, so there might be some of that. But I would wager not all of your classes have all four areas. But you have to have all four areas for this learning to occur. So you all have to add those extra pieces. So coming to classes is a part of it, right? But you're going to be watching me. You're going to watch your chemistry instructor at the board solve a problem. And what are you going to say when you watch them solve the problem? That was easy. And it's going to look easy. Why does it look easy? I'm 51 years old. I've been doing this a long time. I know where to start. I know what the answer is supposed to be. Of course it should look easy, right? When is it going to look hard for you? When you got to do it by yourself, right? And you don't want that time to be on the exam. So you got to practice. So you got to do, right? You got to know how you feel about it. Do you feel confident? Do you need more help? Right? Have you thought about it? Have you done the thinking? Okay, all of that's important. Okay. Experiences. What are experiences? The best experience in the world that will make you a better person is mistakes and failures. Nobody gets to where they are by getting the answer right all the time. Doesn't happen. Many of you have heroes that you look at and you think, man, whatever they are, right? They're doing great things. But what you don't see is all the mistakes and the failures. Okay? You don't see all of that. You might admire Elon Musk for creating Tesla and SpaceX. How many SpaceX rockets exploded before they were able to get a capsule to the International Space Station? A lot. Those are failures. Those are places where we make mistakes. Those are where we learn. We also learn from repeat performance. For those of you in athletics or in band or whatever the case may be, you know that you have to practice and repeat, right? But also interactions with others. Study groups, very, very important here. And also personal reflection. When you are done with an exam and you get the grade back, if your first instinct is to wad it up and throw it in the trash can, you're missing a learning opportunity. It's okay to feel that way, but don't act on it. Okay? Take it, be mad, be angry. Be angry at the right person, yourself. Figure out what you need to do better next time. Reflect on those things. It's very, very important. It's part of the learning process that many people don't do. Even if you did great on an exam, you need to reflect on your performance. Okay? So, where do you stand on the pyramid? Kind of like Homer Simpson, so I put him up there. Anybody know what this is called? This pyramid? Bloom's taxonomy. That's right. This is Bloom's taxonomy. These are some things that I had to learn about. I got no education at all in these areas when I was trying to become a chemist, right? But where do you think you are on the scale right now? Now, I'm not asking anybody to actually answer that, but I want you to reflect on it yourself. But I would argue that most of you are probably down here. That's okay. That's where you're supposed to be at this point, right? You might be thinking, but I finished high school at the top of my class. I should be up here. Well, this is higher learning. So you were up there for a high school student, but now you're down here as a college student, right? Where do we want you to be by the time you graduate? Do we really want you to be at the very, very top? Many of you will be, but many of you will be going on to further learning. Medical school will get you further up, right? Graduate school will get you further up. Your job even will get you further up. But what we hope to get you to by the time you graduate with a bachelor's degree is this ability to analyze and evaluate. And at times create, okay? That creating part is what an employer is going to hire you for. Because we haven't figured out AI yet to where it can create brand new things. All the stuff that it creates now is just garbage, okay, for the most part, okay? But we really want people to ultimately get to that top. So think about where you're at. Think about what it's going to take to get to where you want to be, okay? Metacognition. This is a term that I honestly didn't know 10 years ago. Metacognition means thinking about thinking. That's what meta means. Meta means to think. Okay? So metacognition is thinking about thinking. Okay? So there are 10 metacognitive strategies from this book called Teaching Students to Learn that I think you all need to pay attention to, and these are related to these learning inventory strategies that we talked today. Before you go to class, you need to preview the material. I don't care what class it is, your art class, your English class, your science class, your math class. You need to know before you walk into class what's going to be discussed that day. Why is that important? You have to be prepared, okay? Any of you ever paint anything? Right? So many of you have painted things, right? Do you just paint a blank canvas, or do you just paint a wall just as it is? You prepare it, don't you? You either prepare the canvas by laying on a primer coat, you prepare the wall by washing it, cleaning it. This is that. This is preparing your mind for what you're going into that day. Okay? You have to at least preview before you come to each of your classes. You need to prepare for active reading. I heard somebody say active reading or active listening, but what is active reading?
Reading and taking the knowledge that
Uh-huh. Yeah. It's a pretty simple concept. It's reading to learn. I read every night before I go to bed. It's what I use to go to sleep. Do you think, as I'm sitting there with my book or my iPad, and I'm starting to doze off and I'm reading, am I actively reading? I can't remember what it was that I read, and it's usually the iPad hits me in the face and wakes me up, and I put it up and go to sleep. Then I have to reread the thing again if I'm really. But what we're talking about is being in a place where you can read to learn, okay? And you all have your own techniques for that. Some of you might like to listen to music while you're doing it. Some of you might need quiet. Okay, whatever the case is, you're going to prepare for that. You need to learn how to paraphrase. Okay? You need to learn how to paraphrase things. If explanations to things that you're learning are extremely long, you don't really understand it. You're just throwing things at people to look like you know what you're talking about. You should be able to explain every concept in chemistry in 2 to 3, maybe 4 sentences. If it gets beyond that and you say, well, it's complicated and it's this, you really don't understand it yet. And that's okay. Go back and learn some more, right? You should be able to explain every concept in chemistry in a handful of sentences by paraphrasing. Again, you're going to want to actively read. Make sure you use your textbook correctly. What do I mean by correctly using your textbook?
Don't just open it up when you need to find something, but open it up like more often so you're
Okay.
familiar with it.
Okay, yeah, very good.
If there's practice problems in the textbook, you should look them.
Very good. Yeah, what else?
Don't just use it to find answers, use it to prepare for lectures.
Okay, very good. Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, you know what? The worst thing that I ever have when I teach my organic class, I'll have students that'll come to me to my office hours and they'll say, I'm having trouble with such and such. I say, okay. They'll be there and we'll be talking. I'll say, well, we'll get out your textbook. And they get out their textbook, back when we actually had textbooks. Now they're all electronic. And they open it up and what do you think I hear? That brand new paper sound. Open it up. Right? Wait a second. You haven't read the section yet? Oh no, I haven't read the section. I thought what you covered in class would be sufficient. Your classes do not go over everything in the textbook. It's impossible in 50 to 60 minutes. Right? Your instructors are going and showing you the things that they feel are probably the most difficult that they need to help walk you through. Okay? But they've assumed that you've read and are using the textbook correctly. Know how to use that thing called the table of contents or the index. Okay, very important. Attend class and take notes by hand. Take notes by hand. There is something magical, and I don't know what it is, about doing this versus doing this. And some of you might go, well, I do this, I'm quicker at it. Of course you are. I believe that. But there's something about the slowness that is required of writing that allows that to be useful.
I was told that there was some kind of connection your brain makes when it's physically having to form letters.
That could well be the case. I'm not an expert in that area, but I know it's true. I know doing this, I retain those things better than when I do this. I always do.
There are some people that say, like, when you're reading, also, like, take a piece of paper and just doodle as you're reading.
No, that's interesting. I've never heard that. That might be true. Do your homework without using your examples and do them when it's assigned. Don't do your homework 2 days before the exam. Okay? Most instructors scaffold their courses with due dates that help guide you along preparing you for the exam. Okay? So make sure you do your homework using the examples. Okay? Or without using the examples as your guide. Try to do them by yourself. Teach the material. Get a study group. You're good at one topic, you're good at another topic. You all can teach each other those topics that you're good at. You will learn, and you will learn, right? So it's a win-win kind of situation. And it turns out that research has shown you don't even have to teach a real person. They've done some experiments where they literally put a plant in front of somebody, and that person had to teach the plant. The active thing of going through teaching, now I think that's probably a little harder to do. But there were learning gains by doing that kind of thing. That we know that. So just the verbalization and the physical going through teaching material certainly is good. Okay? Work in groups, study groups. You've heard me say that a few times. You all get to know each other in here. You all are in labs and in other classes together. Okay? What is the danger about groups, though? There is a danger.
You lean on other people sometimes too much.
Yep. Sometimes you lean on other people too much. What is another danger? Getting distracted, right? It becomes a gripe fest. I can't believe you assigned 50 problems, right? People might cheat. When you're in groups, you might, right? But when you're in groups, usually you're in there working on problems in the book, or you're working on take-home assignments that the instructor has said it's okay to rely on groups. So it's possible, but I'd like to think that you all are honest enough when you're in groups that you wouldn't do anything that would be viewed as cheating. The big thing that I always tell people about groups is make sure you pick your study groups wisely. For whatever reason, humans love misery. All right, we love to share in our misery with one another. So the worst thing that happens is when two people who are struggling in a class or two people who are doing fantastic in a class, they end up grouping off, right? Well, two people that are getting everything aren't helping each other, and the two people that are struggling with everything aren't helping each other. You need to be in a group where you can get a benefit and provide a benefit. Okay? Even if you're struggling in a class, there are topics that you probably know better than other people in your group. Okay? And so make sure that you form those groups well, that you schedule them to meet, and that you have an agenda when you go. It's not, we're going to meet, we're going to complain about Dr. Masterson. Okay? We're going to go, we're going to focus on the work that we need to do, and we're going to progress. Create your own exam. What does that mean? Create your own exam.
A good couple of problems, and then try working out yourself.
Okay. Come up with your own problems. That's right. Why is this beneficial?
It gets your brain working in multiple ways, trying to figure out what is the answer as you're writing the problem down, and then trying to see how it looks like
Okay.
working it out.
Yeah, so if I can paraphrase that, really what you're saying is you've worked all of these problems in the book and you've worked with your groups and everything was kind of defined there. Now you're thinking about what would be a good question, right? So you're kind of stepping beyond the things that were in the book, right? So that's good. Very good. And then number 11, personal reflection on your performances. We have notebook reflections in this class for a reason. I want you to reflect on things. I don't want you doing that just for this class. I want you to reflect on all of your classes. It doesn't take much time. It takes just a few minutes to reflect. Reflect on your performances. Reflect on what you were taught. Reflect on what you missed. Reflect on what you got right. Not everything's about what you missed. Right? You need to do some positive reflections as well. All right, we are coming to the end. So we'll meet next week. We'll talk about learning strategies. But also next week, we are going to start with our personalized semester by semester guide. So please go ahead and familiarize yourself with the degree plans that are in the bulletin for your major. And I will be posting some stuff for that for you to bring with you to class, okay? All right, you all have a great week. I'll see you next week. I will post the QR code on Canvas and I will post this video. So you all will have access to everything that we talked about today. Just once again.